Good day, everybody. Welcome. This is a two-way special after the conclusion of the ceremony memorial honoring Charlie Kirk. I just stepped out of the arena, jumped across the street to my hotel, where I'm joining you from, having spent, let's see, I got there at, was there for about 12 hours, all told, in and around the arena. Grateful to you all for joining. We want to have a conversation like no other about what people thought about it. I will say that up until the president spoke, and gave a relatively predictable political speech, you saw very little politics. Don Jr., some politics, but very little of the kind of hyperbolic, or that's not the word I'm looking for, inflammatory language that some people worried about. I thought it was an extraordinary moment. And if you didn't see Erica Kirk, you missed one of the most extraordinary moments I've seen in a public square. Her event, the speech the other night that she gave, her remarks that she gave from Charlie's studio here in Arizona were quite something, but this was quite something else. And the room was very supportive of her. There were about 70,000 people or so in that arena, stadium. But she worked her way through just something that everyone around me was in awe of what she accomplished. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my impressions of the day. And then we'll take your questions. Just want to get as many of you in as possible to hear what you thought. If you want to be in on the conversation and you're here on the two-way platform, please raise your hand. If you're watching on X or YouTube, you're not able to participate, but you can watch. And you should also, on this day in particular, please no smack in the chat. We're going to try to have a conversation about peace, love, and understanding. I will say that I heard a lot of negativity all day from people, both on Blue and Red America. So we'll see if the events affected people. First of all, I'll just make a few points and then we'll get to your questions. Testament to Charlie and one of the great organizers of his generation. The event was extremely well produced, and that matters, right? Because they put it together in about a week, and technical difficulties or timing problems, whatever, would have marred it to some extent, but it was technically brilliantly done. And the biggest applause, and I was in the hall for the entire event, the biggest applause throughout the day came when there were discussions about Charlie's faith, not the political conversations, not the biographical stories, although those were not unappreciated by the crowd. But that was the biggest thing. And in talking to folks before the event started, a lot of people were here not for politics, but were here because of a connection, personal or not, to Charlie Kirk and his religious faith. Another point is, again, known before, but you saw it manifested in the remarks. He was loved by people in this administration, loved. And you saw whether it was Tucker Carlson, not in the administration, but part of the greater MAGA family, or the vice president, or the Secretary of State, or Secretary of Defense, Don Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Bobby Kennedy, this remarkable young man who, 13 years on the national stage, was able to win the hearts of so many people who respected him as a political operative, but also loved him as a person. And I don't think I've said this before about his work. No one like him. Really, I would argue, I have argued, no one like him in American history because of his use of modern technology, which didn't exist before. But really, no one like him in terms of how well he's liked. In an interview I did with him earlier in the year, he said there were two people in the administration he didn't get along with. He wouldn't name who they were, but those were clearly the exceptions. And it's possible that by the time his life ended, by an assassin's bullet, he'd won one or both of those folks over, which is to say, Tucker has his fans in the administration and he has his people who don't like him. You can say that about anybody. The vice president's actually pretty popular too, but with the possible exception of the vice president, Charlie just didn't have people in the administration who didn't like him. And to the contrary, they really loved him. And I talked to two people who, or I shouldn't say talked, I texted with two people who flew down on Air Force One. And they said from the president down to the most junior staffers, they're dealing with a universe of people who were really glum, really down because of their strong feelings about Charlie. This event will be galvanizing, and I'll tell you a hard truth. It was said throughout the day that the assassins' attempt to eliminate Charlie and to stop his influence would not work, and that the movement would grow, 1,000 times stronger. I'll just say I'm not as confident as they are because this guy was such a super talent. He built $100 million a year organization. He understood how to leverage relationships, and I don't know what role Erica will play, and I don't know who they're going to bring in around her. I don't know how much they'll raise. My sense is from the body language is they've raised a lot of money in 10 days, and they'll continue to raise a lot of money. But this is a singular force. Charlie Kirk was a singular force. So certainly there'll be a lot of activity. They're going to continue all the programs, their big events that they do. And they're going to continue their political organizing, and they continue work on college campuses. Erica Kirk reaffirmed that. But I'm just telling you, replacing this guy, just a practical matter, is going to be quite difficult. Elon Musk was here, and he spent some time with the president. Many MAGA folks here on social media, but also in text to me, were saying, they thought that was a great sign that this was just a high profile example of the extent to which people were really going to unify around Charlie. And I'll say again, if you didn't watch Erica Kirk's speech, really, you really want to. You really want to, just as a piece of American history, which she did today, and she cried, and no one would begrudge her that. But in what she said and how she said it, and the beautiful way she talked about her marriage and her husband. A few more things, then your questions. So again, please raise your hand. There you see. Those of you listening won't see it, but there's a picture of Erica Kirk. I believe that's at the end after her remarks when she was a little bit overwhelmed by the crowd. There's great pride in conservative circles in the MAGA movement over the fact that there haven't been riots in the streets. There has not been violence. Stores have not been looted, etc. And the tone of this ceremony was not it was not partisan. Again, Don Jr.'s speech was a little bit partisan, but not in a negative way, and he didn't name names. There was no calling out of Adam Schiff or anything like that, with the exception of the president, who claimed the election was stolen and said he hated his enemies. But overall, if you wanted this to not be a red meat event, if you wanted, as I think Ari Fleischer wrote on social media before the ceremony a few days ago, if you wanted more chance of USA as opposed to GOP, it absolutely was that. There was a warmth and a serenity about this crowd and about the speakers and their interaction. This was not a hateful event. This was not an event meant to denigrate the other side. Again, with the exception of the two Trumps, even Stephen Miller, he was kind of my acid test because he spoke relatively early in the day. Even Stephen Miller was pretty positive, or at least not super negative, I should say. And the crowd was extraordinary in terms of its size. Thousands and thousands of people did not get in. Very hot here today, and so they waited a long time in the sun to then be told they couldn't get in. About 18,000 were able to go to an arena next to the stadium to watch from in there, but other people just were in the parking lot. I saw them from out the windows, and then I saw them as I was coming across the street. 3 people came up to me in the morning before the event began, who recognized me as a frequent guest on Charlie's show, and they all had a version of the same story. They were not prominent people at all. One guy runs a big organization that Charlie helped, but he's not a famous person. And the other 2 were just people who knew Charlie personally. They all said the same thing, that no matter how big he had gotten and how much he was dealing with presidents and vice presidents and senior members of Congress, he never let their friendship lapse. He stayed in touch with them. He helped them. He gave them counsel and was available. And if you haven't listened to Tucker's podcast that he did guest hosting on Charlie's show, I think it dropped Friday. It's online now. He talked a lot about Charlie's faith, but he also talked about what a relentless friend Charlie was. And I know there are people on the left who don't like his policies. There are people on the left who think he's a fake and a hater. He was not a hater. He touched so many people, and of all his extraordinary multitasking skills, the ability to stay in touch with these 3 folks, again, not powerful people, was one of his extraordinary superpowers to be as busy as he was, have two young kids, and travel all the time, and yet stay in touch with these folks. So those are my thoughts. Open it up. We want to hear from as many folks as possible. I'll just unmute you and just say where you are and what's on your mind, question or comment about today's events, and grateful to have this community together. Late back east, it's relatively late here in the Pacific time zone. We just got an afternoon ahead of us, but would love to hear from as many of you as possible. So thank you for joining, and we'll start with Karen. Karen, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind. You may well.
The entire event. I thought it was really great. A lot of great speakers. Um, some things that are troubling to me. I mean, during the event, I was getting a lot of um, hate texts, bringing up these clips of Charlie Kirk and what he says and how could he be a Christian and all this. And I feel as if the maybe right now, just because of what's happened, I feel like it's heated up again. I happened to go to a dinner party last night where I was the only one that wasn't a liberal progressive. I tried to stay off the topic, and I do appreciate, Mark, what you've done because it has helped me in those situations to calm people down. And it was great. We finally had a conversation, which was good. And it started to head in a really bad direction. And it got pulled around, which was great. And it had to do with just, realizing there are other people that are grieving about this and maybe open up your eyes. So I guess my question is, after an event like this, do you think, and you talked a little bit about this, but do you think that it's going to fuel a fire now for the time being um, in the Democratic Party, really get together and organize and try to bat this on a better level than just hating Trump? Or I mean, where do you think it's going? I don't feel real hopeful.
Try to be hopeful, as you know. I don't feel very hopeful about where this is headed. Um, there's not a lot of personalities who want this to be a unifying event. Not a lot of people have an incentive to make it a unifying event, and um, the Kimmel thing sits out there still, and that's really become a source of tension. And the reality is the left is never going to appreciate how upset the right is about this, and the right is never going to feel anything but righteous anger about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that there's a path, this platform and other places. I hope there's a path to more generally trying to lower the temperature. But from where we sit today, even though today's event was not what it might have been in terms of divisive, um, I just can't tell you the number of messages I got from Democrats today, and they're just furious. And we've got the fight over the shutdown. We've got well, just in the news today, MSNBC and CNN did cover a fair amount of the later portions of the event, the vice president and Mrs. Kirk and the president. But earlier, they were covering accusations against Mr. Homan, border access, and other stories that are sourced. Oh, and the president's social media posts about investigating his political enemies. So there's a lot of stuff out there that's very divisive, and I get fully why people on the left are upset about those three things in particular, because that's just the nature of where we are right now. But I don't see a lot of hope that the assassination is going to bring us together. I wish I did, but I don't. Karen, thank you. Appreciate being part of Two Way. Grateful to you. Okay. Nick, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for the group. FG Unmute.
Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
Good, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for taking my question. I did watch the whole ceremony from start to finish. I thought 99% of it, I thought was just pretty incredible. the president, getting a little off topic, a little disappointing, but for the most part, he pretty much stayed on Charlie. Donald Trump Jr., I think, I give him probably like a B minus maybe. Um, I will say this, we talk about the impact that Charlie had. I think about the Andrew Breitbart when he died, even though he died of, a heart attack or something like that. It wasn't as brutal as this. People wonder, gee, now where do we go from here that Andrew Breitbart died? And I thought that, he died so long ago, during the Obama administration. Social media really wasn't prevalent then and so on. And we came back around from that, I thought very well. I think with Charlie, it's very, very different because, I'll kind of talk a little bit about you did a mashup, I think a day or two after he was assassinated on, I think it was the Next Up with Mark Halpern. You did a mashup of your interviews with him, and I thought it was spectacular. And I watched that and I said, man, I cannot believe we're not going to have Charlie around anymore, because I thought that was just an amazing, amazing mashup that you did. I suggest everyone go watch that. I think with Charlie, though, I don't know how long it's going to take, if at all, anyone could ever replace or be as impactful as he was. I've watched so many videos over the last 11 days of him. He is so smart, so ingenious, so genuine too. And I just don't know if anyone could really do that. I do want to ask your opinion on the reactions of AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Chuck Schumer, like just the whole litany of the Democrat leadership. I cannot believe, even with Hakeem Jeffries saying the other day, he didn't, go to something in the house that they were doing for Charlie. He says, I had a meeting. I just want your opinion. Like, how does that really look from the Democrat side? I mean, to me, just it's a bad look right now, and I just don't know if they really have any leaders on that side.
Yeah. It's very tough because the attitudes of the people you named in the Democratic Party writ large, the day, the moment before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, they haven't really changed their attitudes, right?
Yeah.
So there's nothing about this or the president's behavior since, or the vice president's, and the Kimmel thing plays into this, that makes them feel inclined to say, well, this is a watershed moment where we need to come together. I'll read you an email I just got from a community member. I won't name the person, but this is reflective of, I think, the attitude of the Democratic Party writ large. How can a grieving wife upstage a president? I do not need to tell you, easily, with grace, honesty, and incredible love. What a disgrace Trump is. I'm so disgusted by Trump's performance this afternoon. It is beyond words. He is a fool not worth defending. I wish he had stuck to the script. How great would it be if we could all go back to our houses of worship? It is there that we find community, comfort, friends. Would it have been that too difficult a message for Trump to deliver on this special day, given the circumstances? If your children are watching, mute me, or turn down your speaker, I should say. He's an uncontrollable dick. So I won't say that his words represent the point of view of everybody in the Democratic Party, but plenty of people. And the president's approval ratings on a range of things are down, but the Democratic Party's numbers are not good. And the Kimmel thing is very problematic for them. I do believe that they're fighting something that, even though I don't like at all what the FCC did, the chair of the FCC did, they're fighting something that is really not of great relevance. It's, once again, they're fighting on terrain that's really just not of relevance to a lot of Americans. So I think you're right, Nick, that the Democrats don't know what to do about this, but it's hard for them to get out of this cul-de-sac. And I appreciate your kind words about the mashup it did. It is on Next Up. It's all highlights from all the interviews I did with Charlie, and I do recommend it. And I appreciate you doing this.
Can I just say one last thing? The most impactful thing today was when Erica Kirk said, I forgive him. I mean, that just was unbelievable. The strength in her to say that.
Yeah,
it's truly.
You're right. I should have highlighted that for those of you who didn't see it. She talked about the man who killed her husband, and she said she forgave him and cried, and it was a remarkable moment. Nick, thank you for being part of Two Way. Grateful to you. I should also say that there's a big focus here now on young men. Young men is a big focus of conversations here, conversations in the Republican Party about this concept of helping young men, and Charlie's work. There was not all he did, but it was a big part of his work, and people have been talking about it quite a bit this weekend here. All right, having a little bit of technical issues. I'm hoping somebody on the team here can help me. Mario, welcome in. Just I keep on pinning Nick, and then instead Nick gets pinned. Mario, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two-Way. Unmute and tell us what's on your mind, please.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for having me. First time being on the show, and I really appreciate all you do, and you and Sean and Dan in the morning. I want to go off what he just
Where do
said.
you live? Where do you live, Mario?
Just out of Minneapolis, just a
Okay,
little
great.
bit north of Minneapolis.
Appreciate you being part of Two-Way and for coming on for the first time today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I just want to go off and piggyback off of what the gentleman before me just said about Erica's, saying, I forgive you to that man who she has every right to be angry for a long time, and she's already forgiven in 11 days. It's incredible. I can't think of a time, and I'm fairly new to the political arena here of something that an influencer or galvanized a movement after their death even further. Just doing a little bit of research, like there's still things after the Civil Rights Act that needs to be passed that they got passed after Martin Luther King died. So, my question would be, in your memory, is there ever been something like this? It seems pretty unprecedented. What could happen after this? I think even with Erica now taking over Turning Point, it seems like the mega movement has young white males pretty much on lock for the next couple cycles. Could Erica do the same for young women who tend to lean more left, to bring them a little bit more to the middle, bring them to the right? That's something that could happen. I don't know how much we know about her and how much about on her side, So.
Right. So a lot embedded in what you've asked. First of all, if you haven't read her interview in the New York Times, I recommend it to you. And amongst the things in there is she and Charlie said before he died, and she said it now, she's more conservative. She says she's more conservative than Charlie. Now, I'm not sure that's true on every issue. It did also say she drinks and Charlie never did. Not that that's a political view, but it's a cultural thing, maybe. Look, I think it's overstatement to say that Republicans have young men on lockdown for the foreseeable future. I think the right Democratic platform could change things. And really, you'll hear me say this on the platform for the next 3 years. I'm very dubious, I have a lot of humility about saying what demographic fights for the future are going to be like post-Trump. We just don't know how much Trump has changed the image of the party, how much of the positive things he's done for the Republican Party will sustain beyond him, whether it's J.D. Vance or someone else. It's just, I don't believe it's noble. There'll be so much discussion. I don't believe it's noble. And the appeal to young men, not just white men, but all young men, it would be front and center in that speculation about how much has changed. Again, I'm skeptical that Turning Point will automatically be able to do what it's been doing, let alone, as everyone here today said, with hope that they do more. But there is a focus on young men, and at the same time, Turning Point events, if you've ever been to one or seen one, there are a lot of young women there too. It's not just young men who attend, and there were young women here today. I was surprised the crowd was not as young as I thought it would be. There were plenty of young people, but far more people above 30 and even 40, 45 than I had thought would be the case, particularly because getting in general admission required being here quite early and standing for quite some time. So every issue you raised is a good one, and that's the best I can do to answer the big points you raised.
Thank you.
Mario, grateful to you for being part of Two-Way. I hope you'll come back regularly. Okay, let's bring in Monica. Monica, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two-Way. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind.
I'm in Northeast Florida, and I had an opportunity today to watch the whole event. And I thought that Erica's speech was pretty phenomenal, considering what she's had to go through the last little while. And I guess I know a lot of people are talking about young men, and I agree that the young men in our society do have some challenges, but even more so, young women. have some of the highest rates of depression and anxiety in our society, and nobody has been talking about that. And to me, if we're going to be successful, if we're going to carry on the race, we need to have young men and young women who are healthy and can connect with each other. And right now that isn't happening, which is to me really sad. And I'm hoping maybe that's something that Erica can bring to the Turning Point organization that has really strictly been focused on men. Although a lot of women do connect, it really has been focused on the needs of young men, which is great because there is needs there. But I do think a more holistic approach is something we really need to consider for our society.
Monica, that's a great point. Do you have any ideas about what that would look like?
I don't, but after this happened, I've been involved a little bit in local politics, but I found that the actual political parties are, I can't say that I'm happy with either party in terms of what they're doing, but I did get connected with a group called Braver Angels in the last little while, which is a nonpartisan group that tries to bring together people to talk. And so that's something I'm looking into in my local community to see what opportunities.
It's a great group. They do lots of good, and I recommend people check them out if they don't know them. Monica, thank you. Appreciate it. I'll say, and again, this came up quite clearly in Erica Kirk's remarks, this concept of the irony of Charlie's dedication to trying to get young men to lead lives that were healthier, morally healthier in terms of mental health, in terms of their activities. And of course, it's a young man who took his life. And as pointed out to me, mentioned that Erica had said she forgave him. The president was less forgiving in his remarks, and said he hoped the guy got the death penalty. The other thing I'll say again on Erica Kirk, almost certainly she will now be an iconic figure, even more so than yesterday. Although her remarks the other night were quite something. Just go on Red Twitter and you'll see so many leading voices and not leading voices, just everyday people are so taken by her and see the strength that she showed, and are assuming and hoping at least that strength can now carry forward to her leadership of the organization. Carol, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two Way. Tell folks where you are, what's on your mind.
Okay. So yeah, I'm the therapist, but I'm talking also from my Christian perspective. I think maybe if you're not Christian, like I just want to share this thing. There's a lot of regular, nice, good people that are Christians that have felt in this atmosphere over the last, 10 or 20 years that we've sort of picked up shame from society about being people of faith that love family and love marriage and try to do right. And I literally can tell you over the years, I've kind of felt ashamed of liking regular values. And so I think the thing, Mark, that I would say about what you're maybe not appreciating is what happened in that stadium is that a bunch of people, and everybody I know kind of goes, we don't have to be ashamed of liking like positive things like family. And so I just think what is being underestimated is the awakening of people to stand up for normal, healthy things like family. I can tell you from being a social worker, all these antidotes and government programs, they are not the solution. You cannot replace a family in someone's life. If they do not have a solid family, they are going to tend to have problems. And I come from a divorced family, so I know what I'm talking about. I am still trying to heal from my parents' divorce. So I think what you saw today, what a lot of people felt was just like, can we embrace that we believe in God and that God teaches us these good things that help us to be happier? And we have to stop being afraid to say that out loud. Haley on the chat was saying, I'm afraid of the Christian government or whatever. The thing that Charlie tried to emulate, I feel like, was no, we love everybody. We're not trying to be Christians and tell you you're bad. We're trying to stand up for good values, loving our neighbor, the 10 Commandments, valuing valuing work, all the principles that underlie Christianity. And I just want to say that's, you don't need to be afraid of people like us. We're people that obey laws and try to do what's right.
Yeah, Carol. Yeah, Carol. I love what you said. I agreed with all of it. With one possible exception, which is to have the senior most people in the American government talk about their faith with not even a nod to pluralism. All of whom are Christians, is alienating to some people. You might be offended by that, or you might say they're entitled to express their own religious beliefs because they're people too. But it's alienating to some number of Americans to see not a nod to pluralism and the assertion that the only way to have a good life, the only way to truly be happy, have a good marriage, etc., is to accept Jesus Christ as your savior. And that's just not the view of lots of Americans, including lots of Americans who have other faiths. So that's the only thing I would say that I disagreed with you a little bit on. But otherwise, I agree with you. And the positiveness of this event, not just in terms of not attacking Democrats for the most part, but for talking about Charlie's positive example as a husband, as a leader, as someone to try to inspire young people. I think all that was great, and in some ways historically great, because there's never been an event quite like this. Carol, thank you. Grateful to you. Mark, welcome in. Tell folks where you are, what's on your mind.
Hi, I'm in Peoria, Illinois. I just want to start by saying I've been on a couple times. Mark, I want to thank you. I don't know if it was divine intervention or what, but I've faced a lot of anger over the events of the last 10 days or so. And it always felt when I was getting close to the end of just saying, that's it, I'm done. I'd see a tweet from you, or I'd tune into two-way and recognize that, we have to come together at some point if this is going to work. You're a better man than I am on that front, because I still have a lot of anger about it. And, at times I just am like, how do we have a civilization with people like the members of Congress who've been trashing Charlie Kirk today on the day of his memorial? I just be quiet. You didn't know him. You didn't understand him. You're lying about what he said. Just be quiet and let the people who cared about him and took inspiration from him remember him today.
Yeah, Mark, I agree with the point you're making. I'll just ask you to consider people on the left who aren't necessarily attacking Charlie Kirk today sees the President of the United States on the eve of this ceremony going on Truth Social and saying to the Attorney General, investigate my opponents. Sees the president making fun of Joe Biden, right? So it's not one-sided. There's things presidents doing that aren't helpful to the goal this platform espouses, which is to get folks to be a little bit more civil.
I agree, and I'm just making a point about today, the day of Charlie's memorial. We didn't need them on the morning shows trashing Charlie with lies.
I agree. And very troubling. But again, I'm just repeating my point. We don't need to see the president trashing Joe Biden on the eve of the event.
And I think I've said this before. I don't particularly like Trump. Like, it took me 3 elections to vote for him.
Yeah,
he's a tool, and we just finally reached the point where there was no other choice to fight back but him.
Yep. Yeah.
And again, I keep doing what you're doing. I think I tweeted you last Sunday. You really need to do a Sunday show, because the Sunday shows are just unwatchable. And I think you and Dan and Sean could do a much better job of addressing the weekly events in that manner. But
all right. Well, Mark,
I know you're busy already.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your kind words about the platform, and I love having you part of the community. So thank you. Avery, welcome in. Thanks for being part of Two-Way. Tell us what's on your mind.
Wow. Didn't think I'd ever be here.
All right. Well, take your time. Glad to have
anyhow,
you. Don't rush.
Well, you're talking to a Southerner, Mark, so not rushing is part of my MO. Okay.
I hear you. No danger. You talking like me, like a minute, speed and a half. So.
There you go. Listen, number one, I think I speak for tens of billions. Thank you for this platform. I do think that, and some of my bias is going to come through here, okay? I'm 72. I'm a retired pastor. And I know that your life has been spent in the political world. And so consequently, most things that you look at, you view through a political lens. And quite frankly, I've benefited from that. Okay. I think we miss this moment if we want to analyze this whole event from Charlie's death through this present time, as well as what can happen going forward. If we only view it through a political lens, we're missing the point. When, as some of the ones who spoke today so eloquently said, when Jesus lived 33 years and died on a cross, there were 12 men that gave us, if you will, what we have today that we would call Christianity, evangelicalism, whatever. And it's growing. It's growing at a rapid rate. Maybe not as fast as we'd like in America, but certainly around the world, it's growing immensely. And I think to just simply, just kind of going back to your comment earlier about whether this might, you didn't say these words exactly, but whether this might flicker out in some way. This is different. I just think this is a different time, and it's not a political issue as much as it is a spiritual issue. And because of that, and because, don't mean to be divisive here, progressivism is not compatible with Christianity. It just isn't. There's no
Avery,
part of scripture.
Avery, it's a good intro to say, I don't mean to be divisive, but that's going to not sit well with everybody. So
I know, and I don't mean that. And I love all the people on this platform. So
tell me what you mean. Tell me what you mean by it, and then
there's so many things that Charlie spoke to that relates to the cultural issues and so forth that would be deemed progressive, that really are not compatible with what those of us who are Bible believing Christians believe to be true, and what Charlie spoke to constantly at these events as truth. And I'm seeing it, and I'm connected with a lot of things going on and with pastors and whatnot. A lot of people are leaving churches that tend to be more progressive and moving to churches that are more progressive, or I'm sorry, more conservative, if you will. And I just think there's a phenomenon here that, just like 2,000 years ago, I just think this is different. And if you only want to view it through a political lens, you're going to miss what might be happening right now.
All right, Avery, the only other thing I'd say before I bring someone else in is, I know you said I look at things through a political lens. I really don't. I look at everything through two lenses before the politics. One is the American lens, and one is the human lens. I've always said, even though I cover presidential campaigns and American government and politics, I really am interested in America far more than the process of politics, campaigns, and government. But thank you, Avery. Grateful to you. All good. All right. I'm going to bring in Megan, please. Megan, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind after you unmute.
Hey, Mark. Hey, everyone. Good to see you. The thing that stuck out to me was the "I forgive him" heard around the world. I'll never forget that moment, and the way that she said it with such pain in her voice. You could feel how hard it was for her to say it. So moving. Still brings me to tears. Something that really struck me about the entire service was how Protestant it was. I grew up Protestant, and I'm a Protestant. And we get a bad rap sometimes for our I guess our sort of corporatization of church, but it's setting what Turning Point was able to do in those 9 or 10 days. What I saw was like an amazing Protestant work ethic put on display. And that was the same Protestant work ethic that Charlie had. And I think the same work ethic that built America. So I was just a proud Protestant watching.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I think there was like a speech for whatever sort of mood you might be in or feelings you might be working through in your grief. There was a speech for it. And I have to say, I loved Stephen Miller's because he had a real, you know, for me, there's a beautiful thing about the Bible where you see wrath and grace side by side, and somehow God's able to make sense of that. And so I felt Stephen Miller's Old Testament wrath in my bones, but then seeing Erica's grace, I felt it was such a beautiful contrast between the Old and New Testament there in the service. So I'll never forget it. It's just going to be there imprinted on my mind. And I can't help but think when Susie Wilds got on there, Mark, when she was talking, you know, I think her mission in the White House has been to hand over this Trump party to the Republican Party and make everyone who's a Trump supporter, even begrudgingly so, a Republican. And it felt like a passing of a baton to Turning Point. And I think their skill with young people, I believe that they will do an amazing job with it. I'm not worried about that organization at all. Seeing what they were able to put on in 9 days, like that's insane. So
Yeah.
I feel a lot of hope.
Yeah, Megan, I have to say everything you said was such shrewd analysis and so articulately laid out. I'm so impressed. But the only point I want to comment on was something that I had thought too, which was there was really such a very types of speeches in terms of their point of view, in terms of their orientation. And I thought, I don't know if that happened by accident or what, but it was quite something to see, as you said, there's something on offer for almost anybody's sensibility. Megan, grateful to you. Thank you for being part of Two Way. Michael and company, welcome in. We'll need a baby name and what's on your mind?
Hi, Mark. How to use the baby cheat code? I know that's like
Yeah.
an easy way to get you to call on anyone. Thank you for everything you're doing. I've been watching Two Way from afar since July of 2024, and it's just excellent.
Thank you.
So, my wife and I were both 35. We have been really real big fans of Charlie for quite some time. We thought that today was just incredible. It was just really well done, well produced. Speeches were really impactful. I think from you, I'd like to know, as someone who is covering it, right, professionally, but also clearly you had a personal relationship with him. Do you think it honored him? Were you impressed by it? Do you think it met the moment? I think, you know, now knowing that those conversations with him are in the past, you know, did you get what you needed out of this from a closure perspective and from a perspective of how he should be remembered?
Yeah. I've said before, I know literally probably 1,000 people who know him better than I did. So I don't want anybody to overstate or misread my relationship with him. But I think he would have loved the whole thing. And at least so far, one of his friends has said that to me. Just not just how well it. Yeah. One of the interstitial videos they showed him saying basically, I'll be paraphrasing, but we need to be outstanding. Like everybody who works here needs to be outstanding. We need to have really high standards. And this event, from a technical point of view, as I said before, super high standards. But I think he would have loved all the speeches. I think he would have loved who spoke. I think he would have loved how everything was framed. Of course, he would have been beyond words proud of his wife and what she did. And you know, there's no doubt that it's hard to imagine too many 31-year-olds accomplishing in their chosen field as much as he did. Again, I guess there are probably some professional athletes who've done the same, but outside of that, or maybe entertainment, you know, just an extraordinary body of work for such a young man. And I think it was all laid out pretty well. So I think talk about closure, talk about feeling he was properly honored, talk about whether that would have lived up to his expectations or standards. I think all those things were met. And now I'll be curious to see, as I said, what role Erica actually plays, what the organization's actually able to do. I do believe that, although they haven't put these numbers out for obvious reasons, I do believe they've raised an enormous amount of money over the last few days, and I think that'll continue. And I think that's will give them a new capacity to hire a lot of people and to do a lot of events. But we'll see if they can bring his same level of creativity and expertise and perfectionism to it. But I thought it was a very fitting tribute in impossible circumstances. Thank you, Michael. Grateful to you for being part of Two Way. Let's shake things up a little bit here and bring in Don and Doug together, and just ask Doug first and then Don, unmute, tell us what's on your mind.
Mark, Charlie is not really in my lane. And yet I have felt nothing but sadness over, since he got assassinated. And part of that is the dialogue that has come as a result of what people are saying for his death, that they can't just say, and I have a lot of left-leaning friends who would say, oh, he was assassinated, but. And some of the things I've seen on my social feed have just depressed me altogether. I got a friend who posted, he's survived by his wife, child, and the Second Amendment. And I don't know how to reach them. I don't know how to engage in civil dialogue, which is such a mantra of what Two Way is, which is why, I would rather get my information from Two Way than the New York Times. And I don't know what to do. I'm sort of at my wits' ends in terms of how to engage in civil dialogue with people that don't want to listen.
Yeah. Don's having trouble unmuting. Don, I wish I could help you. I know you're struggling there. You keep trying if you would. Look, I continue. I see there are liberals on this platform who just don't have their hands up, and always bothers me, continues to bother me. We need all voices here represented in the conversation. We just have too many people on the right dominating the conversation. We're still working on figuring out how to fix that. I find that liberals in the era of Trump, unfortunately, not everyone, but unfortunately many, don't want to be in conversation and continue to want to have nothing to do with people they disagree with and consider supporting Donald Trump to be disqualifying for humanity. And I think that ignores the fact that not only did Trump win the election, but a lot of people in the country support him. And they support him in part, in many cases, because of the way liberals have conducted themselves for a couple decades. So I think it's in their political interest to try to start understanding this a little bit more. And too many of them just don't want to do it. I don't get it. And the celebration of Charlie's assassination, I wouldn't say it's an absolute low point, but it's a low point. It's a low point. Whatever they think of Trump, whatever they think of Charlie's views, it's a low point for sure. Doug, thank you. We'll keep working on Don's audio. Let's bring in Lenny. Lenny, grateful to you for joining. Unmute, tell folks where you are, what's on your mind.
Am I unmuted, Mark?
Yes, sir.
Good. What's on my mind is memories, actually. I'm one of the older guys on this platform. I'm 76. I can remember the murder of John F. Kennedy. Before I was in high school, and Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy, and the wounding and crippling of George Wallace. That was a horrible, unbelievably ugly era. But we didn't turn around and politicize it into an assault on one party or another. We recognized that individual lunatics and criminals committed these crimes. And I think in this case, we need to recognize this young man who Erica was incredibly gracious in forgiving, much as Jesus on the cross said, Lord, forgive them, they know not what they do. That kid, that young man, or the murderer, was mentally ill, corrupted by online stuff that had nothing to do with any organized party and shouldn't be politicized. We need to come together and realize that is out there and social media is a real problem and they're not easy to fix. And the agony that you feel when somebody that stands for your values is shot down dead, it's very real and very powerful. And
Yeah.
I don't want to live through another era like that again.
Yeah. Very well said. Were you able to watch much of today, Lenny?
Just a little bit, Mark.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I'm taking a trip to Europe. I'll be out of pocket for a while.
Yeah. Okay. Well, grateful to you for being part of the platform. I very much appreciate what you just said. Thank you. All right. I'm going to take a little bit of a risk, as we do on the platform on occasion, email from someone who's in a position to know these things, but it's only a single source. So don't go to Vegas and bet on it. But we saw pictures during the event of Elon Musk first entering, sitting on the floor very close to the stage, and then later pictures of him with the president in the president's box, up and getting along quite well. We've seen David Sachs, who very incentivized to get Elon Musk and Donald Trump reconciled on X, talking about the two of them together. This person says that after the event, Elon Musk was backstage and gave Kirk a hug for an extended period of time, and raises the question of whether Musk, I don't know whether he has a history of supporting the organization or not, to be honest, but just again, speculating now, not based on sourcing, but just Musk's, practice is to get emotionally connected to certain things and to feel strongly about them. So is it possible that Musk will now start being a substantial contributor to Turning Point? I think it absolutely is. And if this reporting is correct from a single source, that he had that moment with Kirk, I could imagine that would begin. And obviously he could write checks of enormous size and dwarf the current annual budget of the organization. So we shall see about that. Okay. Let's go to Alan. Alan, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two-Way. Unmute, tell folks what's on your mind.
Hi, I'm still at the stadium. So
yes, sir.
I was there
I see
in the morning. So your comment you made, you thought that the age demographic was skewed a little bit older than you'd expected. At least from my vantage point, and I was in line, and from what I'd seen, there was a lot of young.
Yeah.
There was a lot.
There was a lot. My estimate's like 30% of the crowd. But if you think about a normal Turning Point event, it'd be many more. That's my only point. Do you think it was higher than 30%?
I thought it was higher.
Under than 25? How much higher?
I would say probably in the 40s at the very least.
Huh.
At least from what I had seen.
Yeah.
And the other thing is what I'm curious about is they said, many speakers said revival, and I was there, so I certainly felt it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, if this is going to galvanize religion a little bit more, and Christianity perhaps, but it might have a spillover effect to other faiths, because I'm Jewish, and obviously what happened affected me pretty deeply as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
I'm exiting.
Do you know your part?
Oh, that part.
Do you know where you want to go?
1 second. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alan, did you know Charlie?
No, I'm kicking myself. I probably had a chance to meet him in DC around the inaugural, but
yeah. And how would you characterize the mood of the audience here today?
It's interesting. Was one gentleman I was talking to, he was in tears. So there were some that were exhibiting, they were pretty sad.
Yeah.
Others were, I would say, pretty mellow. I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought the spirit was quite good. I saw some people crying, but I thought mostly people were quite, as you said, revival, in the spirit of revival, as opposed to being, overwhelmed with grief. Alan, grateful to you, and congratulations for a marathon day. It's 12 hours. And how long did you wait to get in the morning?
Oh, obviously I got in at 3 a.m. I was lined up, and I got in about 7:45.
Yeah. So what were your activities with your fellow line waiters for those 4 hours?
Oh, well, it's funny how many people I ran into from Illinois, and I used to live there. So just talking about various politics in the various states. and some people are happy they moved to Arizona as opposed to getting out of like Illinois. So there's a big contingent, as you would expect from Southern California, California in general.
Yeah. Alan, are you telling me there was no talk about either football or the weather?
A little bit of the weather.
Yeah,
certainly.
but no football.
No football.
Football. Okay. Alan, grateful to you. I'm grateful to you for on-site reporting there. Thank you. Alicia, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind. After you unmute. There you go.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm in Virginia, and I didn't watch all of the presentation, but I did see Erica and I saw the president.
Yeah.
I also saw on my Facebook feed, I haven't been very active on Facebook lately because of all the negativity and the horrible things that people are saying and unkindness that I've just sort of shut up, which I know would not be something that Charlie would do.
Yeah.
And today it was a friend of mine from high school who posted something about a kid who had killed a couple of guys in the Chicago area. And when I did research, the information that I discovered was not even what was being posted. So it's like all this rhetoric of untruths that people are focusing on and not taking the time to even find out what the real story is, which I know Charlie would always find out what the real story is. And so you had a guest on the other day, on one of your two-way tonight, and I don't remember his name. He had a turquoise shirt on. He said that he was really sorry that he did not know Charlie better, that he had not gotten to know him. He'd had opportunities to do that. And with the mishmash of your videos and everything of how people can get to know him and understand him, and everybody says what a nice person he was, yet these rhetorics that come across are so horrible in how they portray him without actually getting to know the true story. So I am grateful to you, as everybody else is, for allowing us to share this emotion and to get to know him, even if we did not personally know him, and that you were lucky enough to meet him. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that. I'd love to hear your impressions of Erica's remarks.
She shows incredible strength. She is definitely focused on the mission. I don't know how she's able to do what she's doing, except that her and Charlie must have talked hours and hours and hours. They must have talked that something like this could have possibly happened.
Yeah.
Not expecting it to happen as soon as it did, but that she is willing to accept this destiny as he was. And like she said, when she talked about identifying him and seeing him and the smile on his face, and you know every day that he stepped in front of somebody that this is something that could have happened, and he did it anyway. And I just wish I had that kind of bravery, because I do not.
Yeah. Go on Robert Draper's Twitter account, and he tweeted out a link to his interview with Erica. He interviewed her for 90 minutes, I think on Thursday, and in New York Times, but there's a free link, so even if you don't have the New York Times, you can read it. And she talks about in the interview how they talked, even in the context of this event in Utah, they talked about the threats to him and about her desire that he take precautions. So it was obviously specifically on their mind, not just in the abstract. Alicia, thank you so much. Grateful to you for being part of Two-Way. Jordan, welcome in. Tell folks where you are, what's on your mind after you unmute.
Hey, Mark. I am from Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir.
I want to say, while the last 11 days have been absolutely brutal, just thank you for the authentic way you've been covering the story. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
And trying to think about, as you say in the morning, about being forward looking. You talk a lot about how Charlie was sort of a member of what you call the board of directors. And in the spirit of sort of a turning point, just curious about your intuition and what you might know or be able to share about how you think the administration or those that were part of that board of directors will sort of handle things going forward. Should we expect things different? What does it's a singular figure, singular
Yeah.
moment, lives,
Yeah.
etc.
It's a really good question because when I talked about the board of directors, it was Tucker and Charlie, and then the vice president as kind of the chair. And Tucker has been on the outs with various MAGA people, all right, for the last couple of months for different reasons. So his influence had been reduced, and of course, he'd had some public fights with the president. And now Charlie's gone, so I don't know. I don't know. Tucker's presence here today, giving a speaking slot, and then guest hosting Charlie's show on Thursday or Friday, obviously reminds people of how close he was to Charlie, and anyone close to Charlie is going to be, at the table at least for the short term. So I don't know. I don't know how this will impact. One of the many things Charlie did, and I've talked about this, including with him on the air on his show and on mine, but it's really it's not understood very well, particularly by a lot of my colleagues. If there was a Trump agenda item trying to pass the reconciliation bill or trying to get Congress to do something, or a public relations issue, with the exception of Epstein, where Charlie briefly dissented, Charlie was a master strategist, and on text chains with the speaker and other lots of senators and the vice president, et cetera. But he was able to in message and pressure really be a significant part of the administration's capacity to try to get its way, particularly with Republicans in Congress or the conservative movement. So I don't know who can take that role, in part because of the relationships and how well liked Charlie was, but also because, when Charlie said student body right, it tended to happen. And I don't know anyone who has that. And the other thing is he's tireless. He was not a guy who people would text and then not hear back. Right. He would get back. Group members of Congress and really really operational, so if something needed to be done, Charlie would not, say, oh, I'm going hunting for 3 days, so someone else can handle it. He would do it. So I don't know what happens to the board of directors. I don't know if from what I know about Eric, I don't think she's going to play that role. And again, Tucker's position is a little bit unclear. So we'll have to see. The vice president has around him a lot of very able political people. And since I first started talking about the board of directors, the vice president has grown even more in influence. So it's maybe it's now a board of one, but we'll have to see. There are candidates for it, but as you've heard me say, even before Charlie died, but certainly since he was assassinated, he's singular. He just did so many things that literally no one else in the party does, and no one in the Democratic Party does. And I don't think he'll be easily replaced.
When I think about those group chats that you mentioned,
Yeah.
in terms of he's still going to be in those group chats ostensibly, and now people are just going to see it's almost like an empty seat at the table.
Yeah.
And they're just going to think about him when they take action, when they do great things, or whatever they're going to do. And just what does that do to their psyche?
It's a great question. It's very easy to say, what would Charlie do? And there'll be some of that, and there was references to that today, but I don't mean to be negative about it from the Republican Party's point of view, but it's one thing to sort of guess or even know what Charlie would do. It's another to execute on it. His execution skills on so many things were so strong. And I don't know what's going to happen to his show. The people who appear on his show, the producers who wore the second hat of being on, they're very good. They're very able, but they don't have Charlie's star power. And I don't know that they can carry the show the same way. Thank you, Jordan. Jane, welcome in. Thanks for being part of Two Way. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind.
Hi, Mark. Jane, I live near Atlanta, and I'm taking this I could go with Charlie and all that and Erica, my gosh, but I'm in the spirit of two-way in the morning meeting, looking forward.
Yeah.
I taught middle school for 25 years, have 3 kids, and you know what I found so inspirational, makes me think of you, Mark, is how hard he worked. And I just think we think about young men, even young women, and I just think hard work, being tenacious, having a goal, not giving up.
Yeah.
I see that in what you do, but in what Charlie, I just think that's something looking forward that the message for kids. I mean, things don't happen if you just sit down. I love the thing about courage you don't have to have a talent. What did they say? You don't have to have talent. You just have to just say yes and just get up and do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. That's kind of what my takeaway was
Yeah.
among many, but I
Yeah.
just thought that's an inspirational thing you can tell your kids. Just don't give up. Work hard. Sometimes I think that's all lost. Don't expect things just to fall in your lap.
Yeah, I mean, look, what he built in 13 years was not
Amazing.
was not a rich guy, was not a connected guy, did not go to college, but I will say, hard work matters a lot, but you got to be smart, and this was
Oh,
a
well, yeah. Yeah.
once in a generational
Generational
talent,
talent. Oh, yeah.
and demanding excellence from the people who worked for him. And if you haven't watched the interview he did the day he died, a lot of it's about kind of how to manage things and customer relations. I highly recommend it to you because compared to most anything I've ever seen, it gives you a sense of just how much he demanded excellence and how much he understood that if you don't show up and perform well, you're not going to succeed.
Can you imagine everyone loved, the loyalty and that for people who work with him, and he had, was such a perfectionist and worked so hard and
Yeah.
and they all go, yes, we'll work that hard for you. So leadership too. So, but
100%.
thank you for what you do because it was a tough day and thanks for your help and all you do. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Jane. We're going to stop here. I'm grateful to everybody for assembling. Just to tell you about a few things. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, morning meeting. Sean Dan and I will be here. For those of you who are interested in whether I work hard or not, I'll be doing the morning meeting fresh off a red eye from the airport. So I'd like y'all to in the spirit of today's service, resolve now not to make fun if my hair looks funny, because I suspect it will, because I'll be sleeping on it on the plane. Maybe I'll buy a hat when I land. We'll see you at 9, and then I'll see you at 6 o'clock tomorrow. And so grateful to y'all for being part of the platform. I heard so many nice things here from people who recognized me and asked me about two-way and talked about how valuable they found it. And I'll remind you, maybe not for the last time, Charlie was such a big fan of two-way, and would always, when I went on his show, he'd always talk about having watched and how much he appreciated it, not just for the concept of two-way and our conversations like no other, all voices under one roof, but that he valued hearing from people who he didn't agree with, and found the format to be very useful to him for understanding people across the political spectrum. And I'm very proud to have a platform that be part of a platform that Charlie Kirk and Gavin Newsom both watched and found valuable, and for the same reasons. There's just not a lot of places conversations like this, and that's because of you all. So I'll continue to urge those of you on the left who are here, because I see you, to raise your hands more and try to equal things up. But even when it's not exactly 50-50, so great to have a platform where people can speak freely and say what's on their mind. And I'm grateful to you for joining on a Sunday, what is in the East, Sunday night, and for those of you here with me in the Pacific time zone, late afternoon, early evening. Thank you all for watching. Thanks to those who raised their hand and participated, and I'll see you at 9 a.m. Eastern.